So friends, you have lots of queries, but I don't think so that I am the right person to answer all your questions. So I invite our ELT expert, Mr. Satyajit Mishra, to answer all your questions. So with a big round of applause, please invite Mr. Satyajit Mishra on the stage.
In spite of having good knowledge of vocabulary, why we can't speak English?
See, we have three kinds of vocabulary: recognition vocabulary, written vocabulary, and spoken vocabulary. What is recognition vocabulary? Recognition vocabulary is that what you listen and read. And while listening and reading, you can understand. That is called recognition vocabulary. The written vocabulary is the moment you sit down to write, at the time it comes to your mind. And the third one is the spoken vocabulary. Spoken vocabulary is your active vocabulary. It is quite, lesser than that of your written and recognition vocabulary. So to speak English well, we need minimum 2,000 words. People who have already completed their bachelor or master degree, they have more than 4,000 words. But in spite of that, they are not able to have interaction well in English. The reason is very simple. The reason is that they do not have mastery on the commonly used words. Once you come to know the commonly used words, after that speaking English will be a lot easier to you. So I think, 2,000 vocabulary will do, and your active vocabulary particularly, that it means spoken English vocabulary, hardly 200. That's why you are not able to speak English well. So here what do? We just, convert your passive vocabulary into active vocabulary. After that, speaking becomes a lot easier to you.
Sir, what is the difference between spoken English and written English?
There is a difference, definitely there is a difference between spoken English and written English. The English you learn, particularly in school and college, are different. And in written English, the information is densely packed. But in spoken English, the information is loosely packed. And written English believes in syntax. What is syntax? Syntax is the grammatical arrangement of words. But we don't follow that one in, spoken English. Because when you sit down to write, at the time, your mind, remains constant. And you get time to organize your thought. The moment you get up to speak something, at the time, your mind remains disorganized. That's why, the information, that's why you don't need the, syntax particularly. And apart from that, more important thing that written English goes in search of specific word, specific non-general word. But spoken English goes in search of general word. And in written English, we use subordination, but in spoken English, we use coordination. Let me give you an example so that you'll be able to understand well. Suppose you are telling, I saw an accident while coming along the road. But in written English, we say, I was coming along the road and I saw an accident. That is called coordination.
Sir, can we speak English without knowing English grammar?
So let me answer one question. That are swimming rules required to become a good swimmer? You tell me. I don't think so. Similarly, I don't think grammar is required to speak English fluently. If I give you an example, I hope you will be able to understand. That when you were born from your mother's home, at the time, did your parents teach you grammar? Did they give you the list of vocabulary? So without mastering grammar, without mastering vocabulary, how could you speak in your mother tongue? Same holds true here. You need an environment. An environment is very important, so that you will be able to listen to others in that language, and learning will be a lot easier to you. So I don't think grammar is required. It will, get tailored automatically. It will absolutely get tailored, and you are not going to face any problem. Just you need practice, because we learn to speak by speaking.
Sir, why we people are not able to talk fluent in English?
Your tongue is in the habit of moving or bending in a certain pattern, but it's not possible in whenever you start speaking in English, because your tongue muscle is not moving or bending to satisfy the requirement of English communication. And whenever you start speaking in English, at that time you start fumbling, but that doesn't happen whenever you start speaking in Oriya. As I told you that your tongue muscles are in the habit of moving and bending in a certain pattern. So that's why you need to, do practice. After that, you'll be able to speak in English, because there is a saying that we learn to speak by speaking. The more you take part in communication, the more you take part in exercise, you'll be able to speak in English. See, why I'm telling that? Even if you get to see the player, before landing in the field, what do? They exercise a lot. Because the normal blood circulation of our body is 20%. But the moment we exercise, it goes up to 80%. At the time, the probability of injury becomes very less. Similarly, if you exercise regularly, you will be definitely able to make yourself completely fluent in that language.
Do we really need spoken English?
See, you have number of excellent qualities. You are a good student, you are intelligent, you are hardworking. But do you think these qualities will speak for you? I don't think so. Not at all. Because people are not going to give you, a lasting, first impression. People will simply, if you cannot speak in English, people will simply jump to your background. So your qualities are not going to speak for you, how talented you are, how hardworking you are, how intelligent you are. That's why I think you need definitely, English, because English is the key to your success.
Sir, do cassettes help in improving communication skill?
I don't think cassette will help you in speaking English well. See, the dialogues you particularly get to listen from cassette have been edited and polished several times. And these are not naturally occurring sentences. And you cannot anticipate the situation accordingly. You don't know how the conversation will progress. So how are you going to utilize the dialogue in your day-to-day conversation? And apart from that, you need the skill of composing and speaking at the same time. And the sentences in the cassettes are not going to help you in that way. So I don't think it's not going to help you. I don't think it's going to help you.
Sir, do we need translation to speak English?
See, translator speakers first translate their thought into, first think in their mother tongue, then they translate it into English. Certain written English-minded people are there. To some extent they will be able to manage it, but it's not possible every time. If you go on doing translation, your translation will stand as a block between your thought and your speech. After that, what would happen? You will start fumbling. And you will feel forced to come back to your mother tongue. That's why I don't think translation is truly going to help you.
Sir, who needs spoken English course?
See, spoken English is required for all people, whether in for social purpose or for general purpose. Suppose you are into a profession like law, like marketing, like banking, you need spoken English because most of the time you will have to convince people. You have to make them agree with you. And apart from that, suppose you are pursuing your career, particularly in the field of information technology, in the field of business management, you need English. Not only that, suppose you are a public figure, you have to call for you have to give newspaper interview. You have to address to public. There you need English simply, because otherwise people are not going to give you importance. And if you want to boost up, increase your personality, you need English. If you are a graduate or a postgraduate student preparing for any other competitive examination, you definitely need English. And English is, in my view, English is no longer a nice to have skill. It's a got to have skill. And nowadays, your inability to speak in English is a crime. You should have it in your mind all the time. So I suggest you that you all make a promise that I must learn in English come what may.
Sir, what is the length of spoken English course?
It would be completely a gross infantileness on my part if I tell you the length of the course. I don't want to be categorical. The length of the course depends on your language level at present, how well English you know at present. And particularly if you want to be completely pregnant in English communication, you have to spend more time in the learning center. The more you do practice, it will be better for you. I don't have the magic wand that I will make you overnight speaker. It's not like that, because learning the language is a continuous process. So I will suggest you that you keep coming, keep reading, keep watching English program. Definitely you will be able to make yourself fluent in English.
So friends, are you convinced with the answer given by our Satyajit Mishra?
Yes.